afternoon, everyone, and welcome to an exciting episode of RecRoute, which is Foundit's flagship webinar series. I hope everyone can hear me fine. This is a webinar series that we constantly do at Foundit, and where we discuss all things important around jobs, careers, changing recruitment landscape, and more. Some housekeeping rules. This webinar is being recorded, so don't worry. We will share the recording via email with all of you who are here participating today. When we come to the question answer session, I would request everyone to post their questions in the Q&A box and we will take them up. And post this webinar, do not forget to tell us how we did, because that's what keeps us motivated and helps us to improve as we go along. Okay, so quickly a little bit about Foundit. Foundit was formerly known as Monster APAC and ME. We are present across India, Asia Pac, and Middle East markets. Today, we have a active user base of more than 90 million seekers. And in the last 1 year, we drove more than 26 million applies, which is larger than some of the country's population that you have. We have more than 50,000 recruiters who trust us with their hiring requirements, and you would see some of the marquee ones mentioned on the slide. Okay, so what have we been up to? So the last few months, we've got a new product to the market, which we call Foundit 2.0. This is a product that we've launched in the market basically to serve some of the pain points that we saw in the market and how the market has also changed from what it used to be. So this product, the new product, is built on 4 key pillars. The first one is data sets, which means this is the industry first product where we're bringing to you both active and passive seekers. This is something that the industry has not seen so far. The second pillar is smart insights, where we give you a lot of smart filters, NLP searches, etc., so that you can refine your search process and get to the talent that you want to get to. The third is, outreach, which is again something where we have, learned a lot over the years and have deployed that knowledge to make this process seamless, and also enable this with ChatGPT and generative AI. So this is where mass personalization comes into play. And the fourth and the very important one is collaborative tool. So the collaboration piece, where the recruiters can now collaborate with each other, see where they are on their journey, which drives efficiencies and saves you both time and cost. If you want to know more about this product, please write back to us. And also there will be a poll that I will conduct during this webinar. Make sure you write into that poll that you're interested, and somebody from our sales or product team will definitely get in touch with you. Okay, our past few webinars. So we've been doing this RecRoute series for a while now, and we've always tried to touch upon issues and topics that are topical, that have relevance to the recruiters of today. And the intention is to leave them with something which is utilitarian and functional in their day-to-day work. So again, welcome to RecRoute. This is session 29, which means by Netflix standards, we are into season 4 or season 5 by now. And I'm extremely happy and proud to state that this has been one of our most successful series. Today's topic is talent strategies amidst the growth of global capability centers in India. And I am your host, Saurabh Srivastava. I lead marketing for Foundit for Asia Pac and Middle East. So a little bit on this topic, there are 2 key things that you will see are colored over here. One is talent strategies and the other is global capability centers, or GCC as we call them. These are offshore centers established by multinational large corporations to leverage any country's talent pool and cost efficiency, right? These centers, again, cater to a wide range of services, including IT, finance, R&D, engineering, and a lot more. Over the years, we've seen how they have really transformed themselves and the countries that they've been set up in. The second part is talent strategies, and I would want to delve a little bit more over here. This is where a company's plan comes into play to identify gaps in their workforce, hire employees according to those gaps, train and develop their skills, and then the entire strategy around retaining them. So that kind of combines together as talent strategies. Today, we'll talk about both of these in context of the GCC and the challenges and opportunities that come along with it. Just to cite you a quick report, The number of GCCs in India will surge to about 1900 by 2025. That's the estimate. And in 2023 itself, which is the year just gone by, 8% of these centers were expected to double their workforce and create almost 350,000 jobs. So that's the scale that we are talking about. Also, during the first half of 2023, and this is really interesting, 1 out of every 5 new GCC that was set up in India was set up in a tier 2 city to tap new talent markets. And this is a data that was released by CBRE. So with these two nuggets, I would now want to introduce our speakers for this session, industry stalwarts, people who've been there, seen it all. The first one is Priyank Vajpai. Welcome, Priyank, to this series of RecRoute. A little bit about Priyank. As a globally experienced talent acquisition leader, Priyank is driven by the pursuit of building diverse, high-performing teams that drive business success. His expertise lies in strategic talent acquisition, team leadership, and digital transformation. All of this is aimed at creating a more efficient and inclusive hiring processes at scale. Priyank is passionate about connecting with other talent professionals to learn, share best practices, and collaboratively shape the future of work. At present, Priyank heads talent acquisition at Mastercard, but prior to this, he has also worked with large companies and held leadership positions in companies like PepsiCo, Vodafone, and Wipro. Priyank, welcome again to the show. Next is another leader, Ritesh Jha. Ritesh, welcome to the webinar series, RecRoute. Ritesh is an innovative, forward-thinking HR and talent acquisition leader with over 18 years of experience and documented success in talent acquisition and HR, spanning industries like BFSI, tech, internet, retail operations, and analytics. He believes in the culture of excellence, which is built on the motto of trust, collaboration, and transparency. Welcome, Ritesh and Priyank, and I really look forward to some amazing anecdotes, insights from you on this topic.
Thanks, Saurabh. Looking forward to this.
Lovely, lovely. So let's just set the ball rolling and dive straight in. So I gave some nuggets around how GCCs have been, transforming the talent landscape and also, mushrooming. We've seen tremendous growth in the GCC sector of late. So this one is to you, Ritesh, first. Help us understand this. What are these global capability centers, as we call them? What does it mean for the recruitment industry in particular? And how do you see this impacting talent acquisition?
Yeah. So the stage or the evolution has been in 3 phases, right? So it started off with in a captive stroke in-house centers, right? And then it expanded to a delivery center. Is that in the supply chain of the entire decision making, if you see it from any business process, be it on the P&L side, on operations side, or on technology side, there are stakeholders who are like business owners or business decision makers. Then there are product owners or product builders, and there is obviously the entire management and support team, right? So India started off, right, and I'm keeping this conversation right now to the India region because that's what I presume this to be more likely to be. India started off more from a delivery center. It started off with BOT models from big service consulting organizations, which over a period of time became in-house centers, right? But what has happened typically in last 7 to 8 years is 2 to 3 things which are driving it at the background, right? India having a lion share both from a talent and a supply capability, right? Cost is a foregone conclusion, right? That's done and dusted and a scaled up construct, which used to be applicable some 15 years back. Last 7, 8 years is talent supply chain and capability. That's second. First. The second piece is, which is like when we went through a once in a century event of a pandemic, which happened, right? India also came out to be a very, very reliable scaling up at a very short notice, getting the right risk governance framework and in information security frameworks in place, data center capability built out at a short notice, and most importantly, very supportive socio-political systems, ecosystem, and a stable socio-political stable system, willing to accommodate more and more, right? And this is the last piece is very, very important, because different regions, be it Eastern Europe or some part of Asia, is struggling with the socio-political stability which we talk around, right? Demographic dividend is another piece which held us in terms of building and attracting people. So that's why over a period of time, between 2010-11 to around 2017-18, when we were looking at a 60-70% of the jobs getting offshore, it from the right jobs data sets, it went up to a 75-80%, right? So that's how the evolution has happened, right? From a perspective of growth of GCCs. And the last piece which is there is, since India's demographic dividend and a continued growth story for the next 15 to 20 years is sorted, there is an increasing number of global Indians and global population which is willing to come and work as a career opportunity in India on the local payroll models, not necessarily on an expat model, which from a cost perspective might become difficult. So all these things are dovetailed together and giving a positive reinforcement and push from a growth perspective as far as GCC is concerned in India.
Wonderful. And Ritesh, anything on how does this impact the recruitment industry?
Sure. So 2 to 3 things on the recruiting part, right? Since the scale is happening and the type of roles which are getting offshored, and I'm using that word, offshored or moved or repacked to India, it will mean that you will have a fair share of senior leadership roles coming to India, right? So which means that recruiting organizations within the firms need to scale up exec hiring capability or a senior leadership hiring capability. That's one, right? The second piece which is also coming into picture from that perspective is that when you're scaling up at such a large scale, you need to have a good mix of in-house and external talent supply, right? And in-house talent supply is very, very important to keep the culture, to keep the capability, to keep the knowledge, to keep the right strategic roadmap and vision and conscience of the organizations intact while you are growing. And it's very difficult to get diluted at any of these stages, right? When you're growing up very, very aggressively. So what it means is that recruiting organizations need to also slightly expand their scope and become talent scouting programs, right? Where IJPs or internal hiring, which we used to do, IJPs, internal job posting, is very, very applicable to amount of applications which will come in and very reactive to what we do. It now needs to partner with business and internal talent teams to look at what is the capability which is being built in India within the organization globally, which are good talent sweet spots which can give us people on short-term assignments, long-term assignments, permanent movements, and as I said right in my previous response, on local payroll models and not on expat payroll models. So that is second piece which will come, exec hiring, and this second piece. The third piece which will also come into picture is coming into picture right now is to scale up the sourcing capability game, right? Usually GCCs do not have an I model, either a vertical or a horizontal model. They are looking at a T-shaped contribution, right? So where people are product aligned and they have a good domain richness, but they also have a horizontal or a functional breadth as well. Because that's where you can use people in multiple roles, or people can engage in different projects. You can meaningfully contribute to a DevOps practice and so on and so forth, right? So there, the recruiting organizations need to scale up, not look at a program manager or a normal horizontal, whatever the technologist roles which used to come in. How to build attraction strategies in terms of hiring people even at a director and MD levels who will be hands-on technologist or hands-on functional experts, who can be a middle market expert or a trade expert or a technology coder or a product builder hands-on perspective, right? Plus, how do you build that value proposition in the talent community, saying that it's okay to be lean, to be a part of lean team. It's okay to be an SME. It's okay to be an individual contributor, even at a senior level in career. And you are not going regressive in your career, but you're growing in your career. In fact, you're future-proofing your career. So building a good value proposition of a career growth around a T-shaped models and more hands-on specialists, right? And tapping into right talent base is something which you need to. So just to summarize, exec hiring, talent scouting programs, and scaling up or acing up the search or the skill-based hiring perspective as far as what the requirement of the organizations. These are sort of at this point of time top of my mind, which will impact the recruiting strategies and recruiting teams.
Interesting, Ritesh. And Priyank, if I was to kind of extend the same question to you, how do you see this piece?
Okay, now that's a lovely question. Thanks, Ritesh, for your thoughts. Before we begin, hi to everyone on the call. I would like to first point out that, the views are personal. While I'm working at Mastercard, the views are going to be personal. I might not even share some of our information from Mastercard. So I thought on the record, everyone knows about it. So now let's look at it. If I could have actually answered that question, I would have been like paid in billions of dollars by now. But, because things change. So when we were probably in 2020, things were much different than what we are today. You yourself in your presentation earlier said that how you have evolved your product, considering the current needs. Now, if I have to really look at shared services becoming as big, they would probably by 2030. It means the workforce would obviously change. There would be a lot of Gen Zs. So our ways of working with Gen Zs are definitely going to change. I think it's at an early stage at the moment, but it is going to become a point where all HR fraternity have to come together and decide how are we going to engage with Gen Zs. That would also include attraction. Now, a couple of points which come to my mind. And, as I said, I don't have a crystal ball. So probably I might be totally off it. But if I have to look at next 5 years, I'll probably start with creating some strategy around for next 3 years and move on. Because the strategy cannot be made for a 10-year, to be honest, unless I'm in a government portfolio. But let's look at it. So, we all know about the Gen AI coming into picture now. We have all changed the way we are working. One thing is for certain, and it has already begun probably in last 2 years. One thing is for certain, the talent acquisition will do away with a lot of work which is repetitive in nature, probably does not require a judgment. So I'm going to do away with a lot of work which occupies my space in terms and, keeps me away from doing my core business of finding talent or finding ways to find talent. And then if you have to look at it, a lot of stuff has already started getting automated in a lot of organizations. So, interview scheduling is one of the recent examples. Job offer letters is one of the examples, which is getting automated. You don't have to really spend hours in scheduling an interview because that's actually gone to an AI bot and which is getting better and better with new releases. So I think those things will go away. It also means that we have to start upgrading our systems because we have to leverage AI, especially AI-powered recruitment platforms. I have seen a lot in my career so far because this has been the conversation for last 8 or 10 years where we started looking at bots to start sourcing, to start screening and all of it. It's not been successful so far because it's basically data learning and it also reflects on a lot of behavior of the particular organization where it's getting implemented because the data sets come from it. So I think we'll have to now start upgrading our systems, leverage AI for most of the things which we do. Can we move it to virtual reality assessments? We have moved virtual now. So for example, a Zoom today I'm doing, and most of our interviews, which we took till probably last third quarter of last year, were actually virtual. So can we move to more of virtual reality assessments because we all must be seeing those Google lenses or whatever they call it at the moment coming in picture. Now remember, one thing becomes very important, and I touched upon this point earlier, is about the whole talent landscape changing. I think social media sourcing is going to become really, really powerful. Today it's limited to some of the countries, and India it's not adopted so much yet, apart from LinkedIn. I think there would be more tools coming in social media sourcing. That's what I feel. We need to really work on our data arsenal because till the time I'm not using data analytics to my benefit and understanding the candidate trends or the skill gaps which we're seeing, or if you're not able to predict the future talent needs, that becomes a challenge. So question is, today, if I have to go and ask a talent acquisition leader in different organizations, are they sure of what they know, or rather, do they know what their future prediction is of how many people they're going to hire? Considering that we're going to start employing so many lakhs of people in GCCs itself, it's very important to start doing your capacity planning. You should work on your manpower requirements in an extremely agile way. Your whole model should be around that you are able to scale up or scale down whenever you need to. That becomes very important. Now, I think you touched upon it that GBSCs are going to tier 2. I think that's the most important thing to do, because you're obviously eating into a tier A city, which is already populated. And of course, there is a war for talent happening. So even from a talent acquisition perspective, we'll start going beyond the tier 1 cities. We have to probably get into emerging tech hubs like in tier 2 or tier 3 cities across the country. And that's when we'll have appetite to get so much of talent and not promote a lot of external mobility. Focus on diversity and inclusion is here to stay. I know there are a lot of news coming around it. So DI programs will change, but not going away. So probably our priorities might change in future around DI. Are we going to move away from diversity, like in Indian context, the gender? Yes, we would. So what is the focus going to be? If I have to look at how things are progressing, can the focus be around how many DI did I promote? So how many people in an organization got promoted who are representing a particular group? So that can be our shift in focus. Today, it's all about intake and retention. Considering it's going to be Generation Z, we have to really start leveraging the gig economy talent, because they might not really love to do a 9 to 12 or what again 9 to 6 kind of jobs. So we have to really, again, come together, think about how are we really going to engage with them? How would our working hours look? Is it going to be 4 days a week, like a lot of countries are trying to adopt? I think we are going to go that way. That's my not few, but yeah, few cents on how I think we're going to be prepared.
Thanks, Priyank. And two very diverse yet very, very kind of coming together. One was around the entire talent pool and how, we will leverage and seek some of those talent pools, and the others around how AI and tech is going to drive this massive growth, right? So very, very interesting and looks very, very promising. Before I come to the next question to you, Ritesh, I would want to show everyone a slide, all the participants over here. And from there, my question will kind of flow in. So if you look at this slide, 2 or 3 very, very important and interesting things and insights that you can see. One is the overall increase in the GCC jobs, just the quantum, right? From a 2021 to a 2023 in a gap of 2 years is gone more than 3x. So that's the kind of growth you're seeing in the overall increase in GCC jobs. And the second very, very important point is within these increase in jobs, how are the AI jobs doing? So with so much of buzz around AI, ML, is GCC also at the forefront of that? It is, yes. You look at 2022 and you look at 2023, there's been a 46.5% of all the jobs are in the AI, ML kind of zone. And what are the top skills in demand? RPA, which is robotic process automation, is something which seems to be in demand. Cloud computing, AI, ML, blockchain, analytics, and cybersecurity. Now, all this information comes to us out of the Foundit Insights Tracker, which is an IP that we have because we sit on such large data. So every month we kind of process that data for multiple industries and multiple skill sets. So having seen this data now, Ritesh, my question to you is now if this demand, and we've kind of talked about this, how it's moving to tier 2 and tier 3, and how in Ahmedabad and in Mysore and a Coimbatore and a Kozhikode are centers which are coming up. What do you think should be the strategies for speed and scale that talent acquisition leaders should deploy to meet this requirement?
Sure. So it's a four vector, right? Sort of a speed, quality, cost, and consistency, right? So that when consistency means usually risk and governance, right? So that's the 4 vector or 4 quadrant in which we move, right? The piece which is there is that we are in a very, very fast moving tech platform landscapes, right? And although there are certain reports saying that 75% of the skills will get sunsetted in next 7 years and so on and so forth. And which are slightly exaggerated in my personal belief, right? But there is definitely three things happening at a broad level. A, adoption of new talent. B is the coexistence of new and the existing ones. And the third one is sunsetting of the old ones and the existing ones getting into the sunset mode, right? So all the three things are happening at the same time. So one of the foundational pieces where the recruiting organizations need to solve is to sit with their talent partners, sit with the business, and define your skill taxonomy or topography in terms of what do you require from a hiring perspective. What is your product strategy in next 7 to 8 years? Well, and sort of one of the pieces which we have all been very, very accused of is that we are very reactive in the moment, 1 quarter, half a year, annual targets, and next year, refresh, in the name of refresh, we change close to 60-70% of the continuity programs in recruiting and so on and so forth, which in my personal view, it actually does more harm than any good, right, from an organization's perspective. So the skill taxonomy and the product landscape is very, very important to be understood and to be stitched as the core and center for designing any recruiting programs. That's the first part of it. The second part is what Priyank touched upon in the response, is that now the talent supply cannot be an FTE model only, right? Your talent supply will be through an FTE model, which is your in-house talent, your contractor or the supplier talent base. And interestingly, that's what Priyank also said around gig economy, right? People who are with a flexible workforce. And not every product line, every book of work which you have will have a 24/7, 365 days continuity model. It can be short-term programs and projects. So sitting with business, partnering with business, partnering with external partners like you, right, who gives us some views with respect to what is happening in the market in terms of what is happening with the competition, what is happening in the skill levels, and so on and so forth. It helps us in designing the hiring programs. Now, when we design the hiring programs, it needs to have a very, very clear demarcation of three things. A, your campus attraction model or campus hiring. The second is the volume hiring, and the third one is the value hiring. Now, the value hiring can be around your niche skill sets and to the leadership levels, right? And to the critical functions like a product, which has a disproportionate value and impact on your organization, right? And each of these models have a very different roadmap. So campus is more around employer branding, partnering with them, upskilling programs, which can suit our requirement, not only for us as a company, but from an industry Samaritan perspective as well, right? And also keep registering your brand from a future talent supply chain as well, right? Because there can be your future lateral and leadership talent supply chain. And trust me, quite a lot of people do keep that registry, right? With the volume hiring, you have a speed, cost, controls, and job fit purpose, right? Right person for right fit. There you have limitations with respect to how much of T-shaped professionals you can bring in, because speed and fulfillment becomes your priority. The value part is where you have those strategic initiatives like a T-shaped resource, right? Building a future organization, getting allied talent skills or skill taxonomy and people with those capabilities coming into your workforce, which gives you homogeneity, which gives you more capabilities with respect to go-to-market strategy, building your product for future, in terms of adopting of new skills, and so on and so forth, right? So all the three parts are having a very, very different model. On the execution part, there also has to be a fair degree of advisory coming from the talent acquisition or recruiting function to the business and to our HR partners with respect to having a good demarcation of your remote and hybrid work models. And the reason why I'm saying is because if you have a good review of around your remote and hybrid work models, you need not tap into your local talent base, but then the entire India becomes your talent base, right? Can you have a more flexible work environments? And I'm not saying that you should move away from return to office or a hybrid model, which is the flavor of the season, which most of the companies are getting. So keep those stitched and keep that in mind. And how can you build a proposition model? So these are some of the things which we'll need to do, right? The last thing around it is also in terms of build and buy talent, right? While you will have a capability of getting into latent talent pool, going to a competition and buy that talent which has a shortest gestation period with respect to productivity, right? There also needs to be a slightly more build model where you partners with finishing schools, where you partner with universities, where you partner with larger talent communities as well, and try to build that capability and partners with something like a Simply Learns and academies of the world, where you can learn when you can run a large upskilling program for your internal organization as well, right? Whereas and also use them as a talent supply chain and pool as well for hiring. So using that, it's a composite mixture, and right as what Priyank said in his first response. I'm sorry, Priyank, I'm just going back to you and referring to your inputs. Why to reinvent the wheel when you can tap into someone's wisdom, right? Is that there is no one straight fixed silver bullet model, right? You don't have a silver pill. You do not have one model which will fit in it. While we do agile hiring, we also recruiting strategies need to be agile and need to be on the move, sometimes just in time, and also do a continuity model. So that's a slightly more elaborate answer to a very succinct question which you had, Saurabh. Back to you.
No, that was truly interesting, Ritesh. Thanks a lot. And I would change this a bit for you, Priyank, now shifting gears, saying that I just want to capture your thoughts around when it comes to hiring for the same skills, but in different industries. What are the key differentiators? How do you kind of go about doing that?
Okay, now that's a brilliant question. And Ritesh, I think you summarized it really well. So now, I have worked in different industries all my life. So if you look at my profile, I've been part of telecoms, I've been part of FMCG. Currently, I'm part of a fintech organization. I've also been part of the IT services, if I have to put it that way. I think, let me just probably divide it into different, fitment criteria, if I have to put it that way. So now, while the core technical skills might be the same, so you are a Java architect, probably you're doing the same job in any organization you are, which has offered you the job because you are a Java architect. The differences which going to happen is would be around specific applications. So maybe the banking would use a different application with the same skill running in the background, or probably a shipping organization would use different tools, but with the core skill running in the background. So you got the skill, but probably you still need to learn about the specific application, the logic behind the application, and all of it. So that is a little different. Now, we need to, when we start looking at people from different industries, moving into different industry, which I totally promote, and I'm myself an example of it. I think we need to start considering how well the candidate understands the industry specific tools and probably technologies also, for that matter. Does the candidate understand the regulatory landscape? So what you probably do as a part of an ITS industry might be much different from what you do at GCCs. Some things are probably granted, can be done as a part of your work in probably IT services, may not be a part of work at GCC, might be an outlier. So, the whole culture part also comes in, which I'm going to touch upon at the moment. But the regulatory landscapes are extremely important, especially for the key roles who have to deal with regulators in spite of their skills. So they know all the skills, but do you also understand the industry which you're going to operate in and the regulatory landscape? Now, if you look at industry trends and challenges, so when we start doing the cross hiring, we look at candidates who can demonstrate an understanding of their current industry, trends, challenges, and then this not just shows their knowledge, but also start showing me genuine interest. Probably if someone is applying from say shipping to a fintech, I would really like to know why fintech. So I want to see that genuine interest and a long-term vision for themselves instead of it just being a job which you're wanting to hop. Company culture and fit is an absolute important criteria. I see that missing in a lot of people, by the way, in spite of X numbers of years of experience. And it's nothing wrong with them. It's just that they've been exposed to different organizational culture, probably from the industry which they are in, or probably the kind of organization they've been working in. The collaboration style. So if you look at our setup, or even if you look at a Citi or any other GCC for that matter, we are absolutely in a matrix environment. So I don't have a clear line of reporting. While I might on the paper, but I'm actually ultimately reporting to like 5-6 people who are my matrix reporting. I have to be extremely collaborative to achieve anything. Or even if I have to deliver something, I need to first go and talk to them and get their buy-in or get their views before I can start delivering something. So being collaborative is extremely important, especially if you're changing industries. Then obviously it has to be also about the transferable skills and adaptability. So while industry specific expertise is valuable, let's not underestimate the power of transferable skills, and the candidate's willingness to adapt and learn is extremely important. So some of the things, so by considering some of these differentiators along with the core technical skills, I think we can ensure that we are hiring the right guy even if it's from a different industry. So yeah.
Great. And I think I completely agree with the culture part there, because I think culture just comes before strategy, before anything else, and
Absolutely.
adaptability and flexibility, on those counts. I completely agree with you.
So I'll tell you,
Okay.
I'll just add an anecdote to it. So one of the senior leaders, now the WHO president, used to say that culture eats strategy for breakfast. So
Yeah, and I would say for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah. No, great, Priyank. Okay, so again, I mean, to you only, my next question is directed to you only. Like, we're saying we've spent some time on the sourcing part of it, right? So we've talked about how you source, what you source, how you do all of that. But I think also once you source, it is equally important that you offer a great candidate experience at different stages of that sourcing process or the recruitment cycle, right? In your experience, what have been your learnings? Is there some example, not necessarily Mastercard, because I know you wouldn't want to do that, but without naming the brand, is there some example that you would want to share with your participants today around this?
Sure. See, listen, I think, if I have to take an Ola, and I'm not representing it as a brand, but as an experience, if I have to
Yeah.
get in an Ola, which is dirty, I would probably, next time I wouldn't order an Ola. And it has happened to all of us. So I'm taking a very pragmatic example, because there was a time when people would say that, this cab services are really dirty and the drivers are not that great, well-groomed. So we would avoid it. So now that's how important a candidate experience becomes, to be honest. While you might be on a thrilling roller coaster with, great heart pounding drops, breathtaking views and all of it. But if you're sitting in a broken car, so that's your experience, while you may love what you're seeing, but you're still in a broken cart. So, for me, I'm going to replace the broken cart with the candidate experience. So it has to be top notch. So if there's another example, and that's a good point you touched upon. So we had someone very senior who applied for one of the roles in our organization, but somehow we could not offer her. But we loved her enthusiasm and we loved her keenness to be part of our brand, whichever brand I'm talking about. So ultimately, we could not offer her, but the recruiter was actually going the extra mile. They were talking to her at any given opportunity. They were available for her. And I'm saying you can't do it for everyone, by the way. So, if you look at bulk hiring, the Ritesh, which you spoke about, the volume hiring, you may not be able to deliver it the same way for everyone. And that's when, if you go back to one of the earlier points where I said we got to start using AI to do some of these things. For example, when I was looking at your presentation, I saw that you can now schedule reminders as well without wanting to get it done.
Yes.
I mean, that's a candidate experience. So if someone is following up and I am not putting a lot of efforts in doing it, can we automate some of the candidate experience? Anyways, going back to the story. So, and we, of course, engaged with her. We went the extra mile because it was senior role. But when the person landed a great job somewhere else, you know what she did? She actually became a loyal customer to us. And she was advocating our products and also advocating our hiring practices to the new organization, telling them, obviously, because she loved what we did for her, no problem. We could not offer you right now, but obviously then I'm build a customer, probably also build a future employee for my organization as a pipeline. Things may not work out all the time, but it may work out later. There have been a lot of times when probably I could not crack an interview in the first go, but after 2 years, probably I joined the same organization. So, that's the impact it has. I mean, it goes without saying, a candidate experience, and let me just add to it, hiring manager experience both play extremely important role in how we do business, because these are the people who we touch upon every time. So we got to make sure we are at our best. And of course, there are some things which are humanly not possible. I can't reply to every email I get, but can we look at automating those other tasks, some of those tasks with partners like you? Yeah, of course we can. So I think that's where the investment should go in. Paramount. Candidate experience is paramount. So let me put it that way if I have to just stop at that.
Yeah. Ritesh, your thoughts on this?
So very interesting that, and it has been historically found. A very satisfied customer talks to 7 to 8 people, right, about your good product. And a dissatisfied customer on an average talks to 23 to 24 people. So in order to save your brand, please ensure that you do not have dissatisfied customer. It is important from a delivery and from an ongoing credible brand perspective. Couple of pieces, right? Since we're talking about recruiting, and I'll keep it to recruiting right now. You have two pools of people, right? You have a candidate pool who have applied for a role, did not get through, all right, through the screening stage, or there are people who have got through an interview stage till some part of form and have not gone through. And then there is a second pool, which is like an offered and the joining candidates, right? So if I need to look at the candidate pool, right, which is the first one, what we need to ensure is that you need to have a last mile, last person connectivity. If someone has applied to your role, he or she deserves to get a response whether they have been screened, shortlisted or not shortlisted. That's one. If they have gone through an interview process, maybe a genuine feedback and responsive, and not a chat GPT enabled feedback, which is very generic and saying that this is what we have said. That puts off people. They might forget that they had applied for you, but it remains in their mind that, oh, this company is not very genuine, and they give just a namesake response, right? So we can ensure technology and we can leverage technology to at least do that last mile connectivity, at least with the response. And if people want to and deserve to have a feedback because they've gone through an interview process, let's do that. That's from an experience perspective. The other pool, which is basically your offered pool and the joined, right, people. The pivots which drives the real credible experiences are your hiring manager ecosystem, right, with respect to the culture in the team, the skill sets, what the role is all about, how do you progress, and so on and so forth. And the second one is your leadership context in that. The leadership context is why India as a region is important, right? What is it playing in the role in the entire life cycle of the product line? They're not interested why is Mastercard India region important for Mastercard globally, or a Citi India for a Citi card globally. That division important in that product line is much more important because that's much more pertinent to them. And context of India region, context of progressiveness, continuity, and invested growth over a period of time. Those two things, the hiring manager pivot and the leadership pivot around these two aspects of transparency around the role and levers to success, and your long-term credible investments into the region, how is this important, actually drives the experience, at least in my time frame. And we can use a mix. There is no potent. You can use a mix of human and tech-enabled experiences and interactions. But just do ensure that there are interactions which are happening. People being spoken to are less eligible and less legible to have bad experiences rather than people who have been connected with and then not being not being reviewed back or not being circled back from a response perspective. That's the golden rule, at least in experience. But what I deal with and I manage as part of my recruiting delivery.
That's great. And I think what you said is very, very relevant, saying when you're dissatisfied with a product or a service, you will go and tell 20 plus people, but when you're satisfied, possibly you'll just tell yourself sometimes, not even 7 people, because you think it's great, but unless it's out of the ordinary, you would not go out and speak. And even if a little bit of experience goes down, then you make sure you speak to a lot more. One of the companies that I used to work for as a part of this cycle, HR recruitment cycle, used to also do NPS, because they used to consider all these candidates as their potential customers. And I thought that was a brilliant move by them, because that told everyone how the entire sourcing process was structured. Well, before we dive into the next section, I think it's time for a quick poll. We've been talking about AI and technology as enabler as the selling point, but I would want to all the participants to for them to take a quick poll. This is around our Foundit 2.0 product. I did give you a very, very brief glimpse of what this product can do for you. So it's AI, ML, all of that, but it's a lot more. It's a decade, more than a decade long of understanding this space that has kind of helped us curate this piece. So if you are interested to know more about it, to have a demo, please get onto the poll and show us your interest. We'll keep this open for a minute or so before we dive into the next section. Okay, the last 10-15 seconds, please make sure you show your interest, and we will have our team reaching out to each one of you. Thank you very much. And with that, we move to the next and the last section of this really, really interesting chat, which is around, so we've discussed acquiring and we've discussed experience. The third is, and very, very important piece is attrition. So this is to you, Priyank, first. How should the HR leaders go about managing attrition in the workspace and in GCCs in particular?
Okay, now, why am I getting all the tough questions? I don't know if it's scripted. Again, probably it's a conversation which we've been having for past 20 years since we've been working. Attrition has been absolutely counterproductive, especially for talent acquisition. While one may call it that, that's the core job which we do. That is, we replace people or we hire new people. If there is attrition, it's good for the business. If I have to just, say it from a talent acquisition point of view, that we have business if there is attrition. But on a serious note, I think attrition in the industry has gone down over in the last couple of years. So if you look at some of the biggest competitors in GCC world, they've been doing an attrition of probably a single digit attrition. So, there is something right which is happening. It may be with the industry. But now going back to your question, how can we effectively manage it? I think there is no effective way of managing attrition. So now let's start breaking it down as to if we really have to do it, how are we going to do it? So let's start with probably understanding the why. So why is the attrition happening? Is there a problem with the work-life balance? Is it happening across different teams, or is it happening in certain team in your organization? Let's start understanding the why. Is there lack of career growth? I mean, that's a very nice question, which everyone would probably start looking forward after a couple of years doing the same role. So the question is, can we do a career pathing? Can we start running mentorship programs? Can we create more internal mobility opportunities, which will keep people going in the organization? Now, there can also be cases where it's only because it's a skill stagnation. I think Ritesh earlier mentioned there are some of the skills which will be sunsetted. Some new skills are going to come in. So how are we going to deal with this? How are we going to deal in a situation where the skills are probably stagnated, or we are sundowning some of our, or sunsetting some of our core technology? So how are we spending time in upskilling? How are we reskilling it? Is it part of your agenda? Do you have the budget to run upskilling exercise for the employees? I think, and then most of all, it has to be a culture of engagement, where we are going to promote open communications, where we have to empower employees with decision making. Let's start investing in employees' well-being. Then there is a lot of technology which has come in picture. I spoke about it earlier. Let's start analyzing the data to probably identify potential flight risks. Can we proactively then start addressing the concerns? For example, if there is a woman employee in our office, probably requires more flexibility, cannot do a 12 to 9 p.m. shift job. Can we move her up? And that's just an example. Can we move her up to 9 a.m. to 4? Will that keep us at the organization. How do we start utilizing social media and digital platforms so that we can make sure we are doubling up our employer branding, because that's the future. So, some examples of success, if I can remember from my previous organization, you know, we have seen in one of my previous organizations that there was a core area where we would see a lot of attrition happening only in women employees. So, and that became concerning because, if you have to really become a diverse organization, you need to have all this diversity plus the all other allied diversity in your organization. You can't have a leaking bucket. So it can't happen that tier works double, get people, they're all leaving. So I think there were some key programs which they started, like I remember a program called Wings of Women, which started in one of the organization. I mean, you can Google it. I would not name them. Then
They
there
used
were,
to call it WOW as an
yeah,
acronym.
perfect. And then there is Wellbeing Wednesdays, which got started with one of our major organization in India. And then there was also a program called Focus being launched. And no offense to anyone who wants to work harder in life, but then there was Focus launched in this organization, which was only about offering reskilling, career coaching. We have a lot of tools internally which you can get on to learn a lot of things which is happening around the world. Also become part of businesses which you got nothing to do with, but you can work with them in projects as a volunteer. Your working hours also gets noted that you spend probably 6 hours every week doing. I mean, those kind of cross trainings happen. I think it's very easier said than done that I can control attrition. But remember, some attrition is very nice to happen. So not all attrition is bad in life. So some attrition would happen, and let that happen because that will give you room to get more diverse thoughts in your organization. Probably take your organization to the next level wherever you aim to. So some attrition is good, but can we build programs around all of this, which I just spoke about? That can help you curb a lot of attrition. That's what I feel.
Great, Priyank. Thanks. And some attrition is good. Your views, Ritesh?
So, I mean, at a core structural level, we need to have a more meritocratic based performance management and compensation management, right? Discrepancy with respect to salary levels of gender diversity, because of gender diversity, is a very well-known fact, right? The increasing gap between the same set of people at same levels, at same skill sets, because they're of different gender is another gap, right? So meritocracy based, almost run it like a governance and a risk framework model. With that, diligence is an apparent very important. The second piece is to have a very transparent and a two-way communication to a model, right? Not all the years, for example, last year and this year, right, is in quite a lot of organization is not supposed to be a very big on growth, right? It's a year of consolidation, it's a year of restructuring, it's a year of transformation, a reorder setting, product line realignments, and so on and so forth, right? Be very open and transparent to people, right? And when you're open and transparent to people and you're going through these changes, also the multi-year investment model on their growth and upskilling should not take a backseat. It should not happen that, oh, we are going through a major cost cutting or a transformation, that your learning budget or your upskilling budget is cut down, right? I worked with GE, right? And one of the famous parlance for GE was during the 2008, right? When we had a subprime mortgage crisis, which happened the subprime. While most of the companies went on to a headcount reduction, GE was the first company to speak around $2 billion reinvestment into people's upskilling. Now that does wonder, right? That does wonder. And we all understand you will not have a $2 billion every time from a cash perspective and a cash reserves perspective. But be open, whatever you have, those precious dollars, invest on right people, give them a fair runway and a continued focus on their growth over years, and not get swayed, oh, this is a very difficult year, and hence we cannot do anything. We had promised you a promotion. All you know that you can give a promotion without a salary increase and say that whenever the right time comes in, we will do a salary increase as well for you. People will appreciate and people will stay back. It is all those preconceived notions, oh no, people will not do it and so on and so forth. That's why I said two-way dialogue and open, transparent communication is key in order to understand their need and our need. And I'm not because Priyank had a very elaborate structure with respect to wellness, with respect to reinforcement frameworks for a different set of employee bases to be successful. So that all of them hold true. But my two key takeaways will be that. So fair and open meritocratic performance and compensation philosophy, and a progressive and an ongoing investment model, and not a chop and a start-stop model there is something which I feel is very critical from retaining at least the right set of people, right? Which can be around 60 to 70% set of people which you have.
Great. So I think with that, we are nearing the end of our chat, but there are some questions which are already flowing in. So I'm opening this for the question and answer round. We'll take some key questions. One question I already have. So people, please, all the participants, go to the Q&A box and type in your question. If it is to a specific speaker, mention the name. Otherwise, we'll open up and one of them will take the question. One question that I already have for you, Priyank, is that can you provide examples from your own experience where a high adaptability quotient was crucial in navigating changes or challenges in the workplace? This is from Chandresh, who's a HR manager at Sell Any Car in Dubai.
Lovely. I think, I'm glad I could answer that because I think most of us can answer it. And I think including him who asked the question, that post-COVID, we really had to be extremely adaptable in how we are working. So the AQ really gone up. But if you have to just look at one of the examples, it can be around, pivoting with project changes, which keeps happening. So there was a major project, if I remember it well, a couple of years back, where there was an unexpected budget cut which has happened. So we were to go live with one of our scheduling tools out of India, and that was a global scheduling tool. And I was leading that particular implementation for that project from the start. But then there was a major budget cut which happened. So we had to do with whatever we could do. Ultimately, after speaking to people responsible up to whatever level you can imagine, we had to move it to Mexico instead of India. So while I have hired teams. So think about a situation where you got like 20 people hired for a particular project or a product to go live, and in this case, it was interview scheduling. All of a sudden, you realize those 20 people don't have a job. And then you are responsible because you hired them and you are their lead in this case. And then all the jobs went to Mexico because of whatever reason. So there are a lot of such situations which has come in. So I think adaptability is extremely important in all the roles we are playing, including a recruiter role at irrespective of whatever level you are at. Even a recruiter has to adapt to a lot of things which a candidate goes through. For example, I'm okay with X salary today after getting the offer, after everything is hunky-dory, happy, you're just about to join us. Then I realize you're probably coming and renegotiating your money with me. So, you got to adapt. You got to know what's the best way to adapt. In this example, the best way is that you have a list of people already as a backup in case a dropout happens. So, everyone has to adapt. The moment we start working, the moment we become adults, we all have to start adapting. That's very philosophical, but yeah.
Yep. Okay. Let's see if there are more questions. There is one for Ritesh. How Citi is leveraging AI for talent acquisition? What are the specific initiatives taken to make this effort successful?
So I'm bounded by not sharing too much of internal, right? But I'll do give you some broad base, right? We have in last 12 months, we have adopted a large scale deployment of a AI-based sourcing tool, right? Which is both on bot screening and also job fitment, right? That's one piece which we've done. The second piece which we have done is we have adopted another tool, and it's an automation feature which came on with an enhanced version of the ATS which we use, which is a Workday, which talks around automating the entire candidate interaction platform, right? And managing their entire life cycle right till the date of their joining. So that is something. So two major tools which we have adopted in last 12 months and enhances relevance. Otherwise, you can be rest assured we have done the best-in-class assessment tests. We have done best-in-class bot screening, candidate experience, interview schedules, and so on and so forth. And through the entire suite. In fact, recruiting is one of the most impacted functions within HR and also one of the most adaptable functions in HR to use technology, right? And to the question which was asked to Priyank last time, just see your own portfolio 5 years back and see it right now, the amount of technology which you use for your day-to-day work. And that's a great pat on back for all of us who have progressed in last 5 years in terms of our adaptability quotient of how we have navigated and upskilled ourselves and upgraded ourselves from an average perspective. So, but keeping that at a broad base, sort of bot screening, candidate experience, interactions, candidate query management on a bot platform. These are a few of the pieces which we have used from and which are more AI enabled, and also now the Gen AI enabled tools as well. So
wonderful. Thank you, Ritesh, for that. And since we are running already above time, I will take one last question, and this is to any of you. This is a question from Mangesh Shinde, who's the TA head at Xanadu. He's asking, what should be the acquisition strategy for a business established in India, setting up a new team in GCC, and how do we attract sales, strategy, and marketing candidates from a consumer industry for GCC? I think that's a large question, but I would open it up to both of you, whoever or both of you want to kind of take a shot at it.
Priyank, you want to take a stab first?
No, usually I would charge for such queries. Okay, now, I'm also probably thinking about the question which the person has asked. I think that's a great question, and it's not a short answer because you're talking about strategy of how to attract people. I think start looking at who are your competitors. So you'll obviously, unless you're someone who has decided to do something absolutely new, which does not exist in the world, then it's a different story. But look at who your competitors are. I think it's very easy to map your competitors today. Even if you don't have the budgets, you have the budgets to call people and start sending them an email or and connect on LinkedIn, or then there are different ways of connecting with people. So can you start looking at those? Now, again, a GCC setup, because that word has been used, is not that simple to explain, because when you set up a GCC, and I'm just giving an overall outlook of it, there is an impact somewhere else in the world where probably people are being moved to a different business, moved out of the organization because you're sending that headcount here to this organization or to your GCC based out of India or Sri Lanka or wherever it is. So it's a bigger concept. But if it's only about talent attraction, my simple theory is, even if I don't have the budgets, if I know my competitors, if I know someone doing the same job, sitting 50 kilometers within my radius, if I don't have the budgets to relocate them, I would just do that. I will make a list, start hiring those people, start getting the referrals from them. Then you can obviously map the whole world is yours once you start getting people in your organization. I think that's a very short answer, but of course it can go on because there is so many aspects to how you can set up your shop in talent acquisition. But I think this is the shortest and the most cost effective.
Yeah, set up and pursue employer branding strategy over a period of time. Have a well-crafted campus hiring program. Have a well-crafted lateral hiring program. Run a good social media engagement program. Run a good, credible diversity and inclusion program. These are some of the top lines which we can talk. And as I said, the question itself can warrant a 1 hour of conversation, right? So I'll keep it very, very top line driven. So do it from a long term and a continued basis. Your brand cannot be created overnight. It takes even a Google to build its brand over years. So it will take you also time. Take help of quite a lot of partners like you, right? And search partners to build that word of mouth for you, to build that your impressions in the talent community, and ensure that at least you have people who are interested in having a career conversation with you. And then you have your in-house teams which are focused towards building your own brand in the right way. So that would be some of inputs from my side.
Thanks. That was wonderful. And I think we've exceeded much beyond time, which also showcases how, this has been a very, very engaged, event and a webinar. With this, we close our this episode of RecRoute. Thanks a lot, Priyank and Ritesh. It was an absolute honor, privilege. I learned a lot from this conversation, and I hope all the participants did that too. And thanks again for being here with us today. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Bye, everyone. Take care. All the best.
And please don't forget to give us the feedback. The form will open as soon as I close this webinar. Thank you and have a good day.